Hello everyone, I'm Barr Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories tonight, the United Nations Organization worried over the arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto, other leaders and militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement (CRM) political party after the protests orchestrated by the party in different towns of the country over the weekend. In a press statement, the United Nations once more calls for inclusive dialogue to address the problems plaguing the Republic of Cameroon, a country once more ranked among the most corrupt in the world. Transparency International has published its 2018 Corruption Perception Index, and the crisis plaguing the Cameroon Professional Football League have been blamed on the non-implementation of resolutions taken during meetings. Football stakeholders in the Republic of Cameroon were meeting in a crisis meeting today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, after the kickoff of the League One championship last weekend was a failure, as the teams that were to play the opening games simply boycotted as a result of the crisis plaguing the Cameroon Professional Football League Federation. And of course, those were top stories. Coming up, details. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this edition of the 6 p.m. news on Equinoxe television. The United Nations Organization has expressed worries over the arrest of the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement (CRM) political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, other leaders of the party, and of course militants who have been detained in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, some at the judicial blaze and some at the special operations arm of the security forces, or notably the police force in Yaoundé, after the protest move in Douala, Yaoundé, Bafoussam, Banjul, Buda, and other parts of the country. And the protesters took to the streets calling for an end to what is described as electoral hold-up with regards to the plethora of irregularities and violence that marred the presidential election of October 7, 2018 in the Republic of Cameroon. They were also decrying the crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of the country, the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. And of course, word is qualified as illegal exploitation of resources of the country by a clique of individuals, and they were arrested during that protest move, while the leaders, Professor Maurice Kamto and others, were arrested at the residence of Albert Zungang here in the economic capital, Douala, and they have been detained in the nation's political capital. And of course, the United Nations Organization has equally condemned the violence perpetrated by some protesters in the notably in the embassies of Cameroon in Paris, France, as well as Berlin in Germany. And of course, the World Organization has also condemned the violence orchestrated in those parts of the world, notably in Cameroon's diplomatic representations in Paris and Berlin. And as highlighted by the spokesperson of the United Nations Secretary General, Stéphane Dujarric, Antonio Guterres reiterates the need for all Cameroonian stakeholders to engage an inclusive and genuine political dialogue to address the challenges plaguing the country. He said the UN stands ready to support such efforts. And that is what has been happening in the Republic of Cameroon. The leaders who have been arrested are still in the detention. Professor Maurice Kamto, Christian Penda Ekoka, as well as other leaders of the CRM political party, and of course militants who were arrested in connection to the protest move qualified by the government of Cameroon as illegal and of course a threat to public peace and order, and they are now under detention to face the law as a result of that protest move. Cameroon has once more been ranked among the most corrupt nations in the world. This is contained in the 2018 Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International. For me, Armstrong Sander has more. We'll be coming back to that report in the course of this newscast. Time for us to go over to the Anglophone parts of the country where the crisis, the security, socio-political crisis has continued deepening and of course inflicting severe pains, sorrow and of course destruction on human lives and properties in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. And the authorities in those parts of the country have been stepping up efforts to bring the situation under control. In the southwest region, Governor Barr Bilai has been taking some measures to bring the situation under control in the northwest and southwest, notably in the southwest region of the country. And Derek Jato reports from Boya. Derek Jato with that report there on efforts by administrative authorities, notably the governor of the southwest region of the country, Barr Bilai, to bring the situation under control as the crisis continues deepening with enormous material on human damage recorded. Derek Jato.
After descending downtown Boya last Monday to witness how Mayor Ekema Patrick Isunge, the mayor of the Boya Council, is battling with Ghost Town by encouraging those who have opened their business premises to keep up, unsealing those present, sealing those absent, and fueling taxis as a booster for taxi drivers to hit the street. Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai, apart from witnessing the drama on the field, also made a big discovery. Civil servants have not come to work and their offices are closed. The next day, Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai immediately convened a meeting in his office. Regional delegate and head of autonomous services are invited, and before them are two choices: to choose from the government, their employer, by coming to work on Mondays, or the Ambazonian Defense Forces, who are encouraging the sit-in strike on Mondays. The Southwest governor also told these head of services that failure to come to work next Monday in itself will be an answer, and asked the governor, commander-in-chief of the region, he knows the sanctions that will be made, adding that there will be no room for excuses. For Mayor Ekema Patrick Isunge, the mayor of Boya Council has succeeded in making circulation possible on Mondays.
The local authorities are there, the army is there to give you the necessary security protection. For the rest, everything is in your hand. You know what to do. I want to thank you.
Mondays have been witnessing sit-in strike in Anglophone Cameroon for 3 years now.
Coming up, Derek Jato, our correspondent in the Southwest Regional Chieftain Boya, takes a look at efforts to improve on the living conditions of thousands of persons who have been displaced by the Anglophone crisis. Many of them have been living in very difficult conditions since they abandoned their homes and everything in their villages and were compelled to seek refuge in the regional capital, Boya. Things have been quite difficult for them, and now some men and women of goodwill are helping to improve on their living conditions, in other words, to help them to survive the heat of the Anglophone crisis. Derek Jato.
Farming was their primary source of livelihood until the Anglophone crisis came and pushed them out of their farms, and they left everything behind and escaped to Boya. Today, Mentors Foundation, a non-governmental organization, is taking a set of internally displaced persons back to the farm.
When we did a survey on IDPs in Boya, and we finally realized that single mothers are vulnerable, but many of them came from the remote areas where they did cocoa, cassava, and here we have now to impact them the knowledge on vegetables, which is maybe the urban-based cultivation crop, and which is also realized on the faster note. Within 3 months, they can start realizing some proceeds. Our interest.
Mr. Agbo Paul Agbo, the NGO founder, explained that the goal is to enable these victims of the war to be self-sustainable rather than depending on well-wishers to come and feed them on daily basis.
Our interest in this program is to make sure that they are economically viable.
And many actors have already come on board to speed what has been described as life-saving drive.
We are open to give our technical support at any given time that we are called upon.
And the selected single mothers, beneficiaries of this project, say their hopes have been rekindled.
Thank God, if you work, I'll make money. When I too will be known.
I told you earlier that Cameroon has been once more ranked among the most corrupt countries in the world, and this is contained in the 2018 Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
The 2018 Corruption Perception Index by Transparency International reviews continued failure of Cameroon and co-corrupt countries to significantly control corruption. The report, released Tuesday, 29 of January 2019, placed Cameroon on 152 least corrupt out of 180 corrupt nations. According to the report, Cameroon is among the most corrupt countries in West and Central Africa, more than Nigeria and Ghana put together. Transparency International Corruption Perception Index ranked Cameroon in average of 123.95 from 1996 till 2008, reaching an all-time high of 153 in 2017 and a record low of 49 in 1996. The index ranks countries by their perceived level of public sector corruption, according to experts and business persons. It uses a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is highly corrupt and 100 least corrupt. In this report, Somalia is ranked as the most corrupt country in the world and inside Africa, while Botswana is the least corrupt country in Africa. More than 2/3 of countries score below 50 in this year's Corruption Perception Index, with an average score of just 43. With Cameroon still featuring among corrupt countries across the globe, experts say the National Anti-Corruption Commission, Equinoxe, must step up its fight against corruption in the country. Following the 2017 report, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, Equinoxe, said it succeeded in recovering 375 billion francs CFA from corrupt networks into the state's coffers. The most recent giant project reportedly rocked by corruption in Cameroon is the AFCON 2019 project, whose hosting right was stripped of Cameroon. Whistleblowers claim that an estimated sum of 680 billion francs CFA of Cameroonian taxpayers' money was swallowed in AFCON 2019 contracts wrapped in controversy.
In its last report, the National Anti-Corruption Commission identified the Ministry of Public Contracts as the most corrupt public institution in the Republic of Cameroon. Onto something else now. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, is helping Cameroon to boost scientific research in the country. Officials of the Central African arm of UNESCO met with some stakeholders, notably the officials of the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation, led by Minister Madeleine Achwente, today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, to discuss efforts to step up scientific research in Cameroon for her development and, of course, for the good of her people. And now here's the extract of Khaled Salah. He is the representative of UNESCO in Central Africa. Take a listen.
And the honor of meeting Madam Minister of Scientific Research and Innovation today. And we went through all the programs of cooperation between UNESCO and the Ministry, especially in the social transformations, in the scientific research and innovation. We agreed that we will be having a partnership agreement that will be signed very soon. This memorandum of understanding will be completed with a plan of action, detailed plan of action with medium, short, long-term objectives, measurable objectives, so that we can measure all the cooperation activities that we will be having, especially in the promotion of the role of the new Institute for Social Research for the development, and the role of women in scientific research, how to encourage women and girls in entering into science, technology, engineering and math, and the program, how to develop further the program of cooperation between the Ministry and UNESCO on the management of social transformations. And in the domain of social transformations, we talked about the importance, the priority of working on the prevention of violent extremism, the vivre ensemble, living together, the dialogue, the reconciliation, how this domain is really an important priority for the country. So basically I was really grateful for Madam Minister and her team, who were all of them present, and we look at the future with bright hopes.
And the crisis plaguing the Cameroon Professional Football League have been attributed to the non-implementation of resolutions taken in different meetings. Today, football stakeholders were meeting in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, in a crisis meeting after the kickoff of the 2019 League One Championship last weekend failed, as the football clubs that were due to play the opening games simply boycotted because of the crisis. And our reporters in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, caught up with the president of Union Football Club of Douala, Frank Api, and this is what he said.
It's going to be binding because in as much as there were resolutions, after those meetings there were other meetings where those resolutions were not thoroughly followed up. This time around, I think we have ironed out all our issues, and we still have problems. But we've decided to drop our pride, drop our egos, and for the interest of our country, to only focus on the major issues. So the major issues being already cleared, all what was remaining, the remaining issues can be handled in the General Assembly to the end of February, or in the ad hoc committee that has been put in place by the FA. On the rules of the game, where we had problems between the teams that were supposed to go down, it was contrary to what FECAFOOT's last executive committee signed. So once that is solved, we technically have no fundamental reason not to go back to the stadium. So this is I think we'll begin in grand style Saturday. A double opening game, one for League 2, Canon Panther, and the second one for League 1, Eding Yosa.
Thank you very much. Frank Api, president of Union Football Club of Douala, speaking there. And that's it for the first part of this newscast. Coming up next is Talking Point. Thanks for joining us in Talking Point. We are receiving a legal mind, member of the Cameroon Bar Association and frontline militant of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, Barrister ACHU Julius. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babila.
you've been following up the recent developments in the country with regards to the protest move organized by the CRM political party and, of course, the arrest of some of the leaders of that party and militants who are now in detention in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. And the United Nations is expressing concerns over the arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto and the other, some of his followers who are now being detained. And before that, your party, the CPDM, issued a release signed by the Secretary General of the Central Committee, Jean Kwete, who condemned the protest move and called on the public authorities to bring to book all those who are concerned, those who masterminded and those who took part in the protest move.
Yes, I've been following up those activities, and the first point is that we should understand that in Cameroon, to protest is legal. But there are certain regulations to fulfill in order to protest publicly. You can protest in a closed environment, and you can protest in a public environment. You should understand that the public belongs to everybody. And to protest in a public environment, certain rules and regulations have to be followed. Like you have to declare so that you should be guided by the forces of law and order. But when you see a protest whereby it is sprung up in various towns almost simultaneously and in the embassies almost at the same time by one party, you should understand that the leader of that party cannot be everywhere in those towns at all the times. So it means it was something that had been pre-planned. It had been planned for it to take place. So when you make such a plan, it means you had the possibility of informing the authorities that I want to carry out such and such an activity on the public place, in the public environment.
The party, notably the Secretary General of that party, Barrister Christopher Ndong, told me that they dropped applications, or better still declarations of their manifestation in the different administrative offices. If
they did that, and there was no, it was not forbidden for them to manifest, it was just but normal that they had to do it. But I would really doubt that the forces of law and order should go on and arrest persons where there was something wrong. There is no smoke without fire in this country. All of you and me agree. There cannot be smoke without fire. So there's something about it that you and me for now cannot say, because we are not private to the investigation. Only those who know what is inside the fire can verily tell you why persons were arrested.
The authorities, notably the ministers of communication and territorial administration, said the protests were illegal.
Yes. That is their assertion, which is right, in the sense that a normal public manifestation, the first thing that anybody reads to the population is the authorization to manifest.
But in Cameroon, the law states that you just need to declare.
Yes, when you declare, you come and read the letter of declaration and the date it was deposited to find out that within the time limit that the administration also reacted, it means it is authorized. So that's the first thing to be read in a public manifestation. When you have that, your manifestation is legal. It cannot be illegal. So when you see authorities say that illegal, because there was nothing like that. Because if the Minister of Territorial Administration, there was nothing like that, he's the one to give. He's the one which is subordinate to give such an authorization. If he says there was no declaration, who do you accept? The Secretary General of MRC, who never showed you any document, or the minister who was making a declaration during a press conference? I would prefer to listen to the minister, but it was during a legal press conference. But what you got from the SG of MRC was a private discussion. Did he show you any paper? I would doubt that very much.
But they are claiming that they actually declared their meeting, but there seem to be other elements that came into play, which probably pushed the authorities to qualify the protests as illegal.
Well, anyway, to me, the most thing that I feel very, very bad about is the fact that some people were hurt. And when some people were hurt, and it was assumed that it was coming from gunshots from the force of law order, it's just but normal that there should be an investigation. You see, when the minister said, the force of law order never fired any irregular arms, or never fired arms into the public. Who should you and me believe? I should believe the minister because he was doing a press conference. But you see, when we see facts with our naked eyes, there's so much behind the scene that you and me cannot understand. until there's an investigation, which will now cause the truth to come out. I understand the word of the United Nations.
Even though the Deputy Communication Officer of the CRM political party told me on this very set that what was extracted out of the leg of Barrister Michel Ndoki was a live bullet. Even though that cannot be proven anyway.
I don't. He's not a ballistic expert to know much about issues about guns. But me myself, I'm not an expert to know much about guns. But I'm first worried that Martin Dock is my colleague. I should first of all feel for her as a lawyer that, hey, what happened to my colleague is not normal. But you see, I cannot draw conclusions that he was shot by X or Y because, first of all, I was not there. Everything I know about it was just hearsay. People talking about it.
All the same, the Ministers of Communication and Territorial Administration have emphasized and insisted on the point that no live ammunitions were used, no live bullets were used against the protesters, despite the allegations that are coming from the militants. But critics are highlighting a problem that has been persisting in Cameroon for quite some time now. It is being observed that when protesters or militants, supporters and sympathizers of opposition political parties and sometimes the civil society take to the streets, there is repression. The meetings are often banned. Jean-Michel Ninche banned, CRM banned, other political parties, other opposition political parties often banned. And when it's the turn of the CPDM, everything goes on smoothly.
First of all, you should know that CPDM is a very experienced party. We've gone through the thick and thin of these things. And those who don't know what to do, they should come to us for us to give them guidance as to how to go about it. We are always open. CPDM is always open to give guidance to whoever wants to follow suit. In any case, this is all the process of democracy. It's not easy.
So the problem is...
It's going to be... Democracy is like a tug of war. In the sense that everybody tries to pull the carpet to his own side. Until there come a point in time where we'll be much developed like in the US, like in France, like in the Western world. No, they took more than 200 years to come where they are. We are just 50 or 60 years into it and want to be like them. It's not possible. But we are doing the best that we can. But you see, as I know, in Cameroon, people don't like to go to where experience is. I say again, the CPDM party is always open to advise parties as to how to do public manifestation without headache.
But somebody asked me the question, why is it that it's only when Jean-Michel Ninche of the Social Democratic Front, Maurice Kamto of the CRM say they want to take to the streets, that a threat to public disorder, threat to public order, threat to public peace come into play as the backing to ban or bring repression upon the protesters?
You bear with me that it is not the CPDM that does that, that controls that. CPDM is just a party like any other political party. You will never see somebody in CPDM party uniform go to discuss or examine an application by another political party to the administrative authorities.
The application of the law seems to be biased?
No, it isn't, because the law has given discretion to administrative authorities to decide on certain issues. We CPDM, we follow it to the book. I don't know about other political parties, but I say we are still open to help them, to advise them how to go about such things without headache, because we do it without headache. You should understand that there are times too, CPDM has been banned from exercising the public manifestation rights.
Sometimes some of those manifestations are banned even before the event proper, even before they take place.
But the shocking thing is that, to the best of my knowledge, there is nobody who has taken the divisional officer or the whoever who banned such a manifestation to court, to be brought to book. What does that mean? It means you accepted the verdict or the decision of the administrative authority. Why not take him to court? Oh, see, court is still CPDM too?
No, so
because everything in this country seems to be CPDM.
Now, as a legal mind, when you look at this image of CRM protesters sitting down on the pedestrian path at the central post in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and suddenly they are just singing songs, and suddenly the water cannon is turned towards them. Water is poured on them, and there are forces of law and order who start beating. Tear gas is fired. What you're reading of that?
First and foremost,
kind of reaction.
First and foremost, where your right begins and ends, mine also begins and ends. You cannot block the pathway, but everybody has a right to pass because you say you are protesting. Fine, You can be protesting. What the police are doing is thinking of the greater majority. How many people were blocking that passage? There are about more than 1 million people in Yaoundé. If a group of 100 or 200 come and block a passage, what is the other 800 going to do? How are they going to pass? So that's where the problem is. That's why you see those public manifestations need some regulations in order to permit where your rights are. That shouldn't infringe your mind. It's not because you have a right to protest that you block me from going normally to do and carry out my normal activities. Protest is your right, which is normal. It's constitutional, but it is regulated at the same time. Don't block the highway when people are going to market, for example. Don't block the Aquanor road when you know it's the only road that goes to Aquanor. Don't block the Bonaberi Bridge when you know the only way going to Bonaberi Bridge and things like that. If you march on it, do you know what? How are you going to pick up the town? That is why regulations have to come into place. But in any case, we should understand the general principle is that everybody is free to protest.
In the Cameroonian embassy in Paris, in France, the embassy was ransacked.
Everybody will be very, very sad. That is pure washing of a dirty linen on the international scene. And I don't see how protest at our embassy has some connection with the political arena in Cameroon. You see, why some people are worried, because me, I'm not worried, because to me protest is normal, but it has to be regulated. It's the fact that all these things happen almost at the same time. Means it was not spontaneous. It means it was planned. So, to me, the state has to find out it was planned for what reason. And that is the $1 million question.
All right. Before we go, a word on the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International. Cameroon is among the most corrupt countries in the world. Yes,
that is somebody's perception about it. It is not a general view, but in any case, organizations like Transparency International, its credibility is linked to the person who is managing it. I remember when Batunia Kremona was managing Transparency International, it had some credibility in the sense that it helped the government, or it helped the system to ameliorate those areas where you found the corruption. But you see, but nowadays, since Akremona left this thing, it's as if transparency has gone to some dormancy, or you just get one fine morning to say this is what we've done, and so on and so forth.
All right.
That lacks credibility to me.
Barrister ACHU Julius, member of the Cameroon Bar Association and frontline militant of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement. Thanks for coming.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks,
ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.